From professional ballet princess to confidence coach, I have Michele Andrews on with us today. I'm Shylo Ekstrom. This is Grit and Grace. Let's get started. Woo, Michele, I was excited for this one. I asked last minute because I was like, what? We had this planned. And then it kind of was like, wait a minute, where'd it go? You got busy, I got busy. I'm like, no. We got to get this in the books because not only do we work side by side in a similar industry, you have such a cool background and stuff that I really want to talk about today. Body confidence. The fitness world, being a professional ballet, ballerina, I should say, that is an interesting world on its own. And I'm going to, especially with body confidence. Yeah. And I'm going to be really transparent right now and tell you about my weekend because it goes hand in hand with you. And I know this is why I asked you, because I was feeling really good. And this happens to women a lot. We see, and I don't hate the Kardashians. I'm not going to jump on the hate train because I don't. I think they bring a lot of really good vibes to some body confidence. I mean, they brought the big booties, the big butt, the big legs back. It's like, that was my life when I was in high school. I was this skinny little waist girl, but I had a big butt and big legs, and there was never clothes that fit me. Unless I was stick thin, I felt fat. And I was a healthy girl. I was athletic. I was in all sports. But, then there's this other side of, you don't know, you don't see one flaw. You don't see a scar, a stretch mark, and they have them, but they have spent tons of money, right, not just only to improve or hide it. They also have professional people constantly around them editing photos. And so we are in a world of editing, and it's really tough because we start picking ourselves apart. Mm-hmm. And what I was doing this weekend is I felt really good. I had a great photo shoot. You'd think, oh my God, I felt great, right?
Yeah, your hair was on point.
Right. My hair was great. I loved it. And I'm not in the same shape I was 3 years ago, because I went through some serious things that I've talked about. Your husband was on the show. We talked about a lot of stuff that, the battles. But what happened is I gained a lot of weight in a short amount of time. So I went way up, 36 pounds, and I'm a 5'3" woman who's very short, very small anyways. And I went way up and way down within a 6 to 9 month period. My body did not adjust to that well. So I have some loose, I'm just going to talk about it because I want women to know it's okay. I have had some loose skin in my stomach area where I never had it before. And it doesn't look flattering. I have old stretch marks that look fresh and that I've been trying to work on. I have scars because I've had some surgeries, and I'm improving. Now, do I look terrible? Absolutely not. I don't. Right. But you do these photo shoots and I felt great, but I'm like, oh, my skin is blotchy and I have, these imperfections that everybody has. And on Saturday I went like this, and I sat there and I'm like, oh my God, I got to fix all this. Like, how am I going to fix this? I can't fix this. And I started to spiral about cellulite. I started to spiral about my skin that, I can't fix it instantly. It takes time. This only happened a year ago. So bringing this back around, because I think this is a really good topic to talk about. I'm being very vulnerable on here because I'm letting you all, ladies, guys, whoever listens, I am flawed beyond flawed. I have all the things, but so does everybody. Right. I had a makeup artist, and I was really paranoid about my legs because I have a lot of imperfections on my legs. I have an autoimmune, and then I have just imperfections. And she's like, you'd be surprised at how many supermodels have, really bad circulation, and it shows. And I'm like, oh, she made me feel better, but she was like, seriously, you look great. But you don't know that because that's never shown. And then you have this pressure when you're on social media and you're like, what if somebody judges me for this? So I went through this stupid weekend of feeling bad. And then I pulled myself out and I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? This is ridiculous. You are a beautiful woman. You need to be proud of yourself. And it's a process. Yeah. It doesn't come back overnight. It takes even more time than a year. A year ago this weekend is when I started to lose weight. I got to give myself more time, and my body's I'm 40. I'm not going to bounce back like I did when I was 2. So let's talk about it. Let's share. I want to know, let's talk about the beginning of you. How does somebody become a professional ballerina?
Okay. Well, first off, thank you so much. I feel so honored. I love you. I love this platform, and I love the vulnerability because that's who I am. Even when I teach my classes, I'm constantly talking and literally talking about my imperfections because, you know, I think too, when you're in that situation, whether it's social media or a teaching where all eyes are on you, people get this image, this false image. So I'm always so quick to go, oh, let's talk about my loose skin.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, you know, when I was 4 years old, my mom put me in ballet class at the Park and Rec at the gym. And it's so funny because when you're little, you know, you have little memories that come in and out. And I can so clearly see that very first day where the old gymnasium where they had the big circle in the middle when you'd play basketball, we had to do little leaps over the circle. And I remember that. And I fell in love with it. The program ended and all my little friends were off doing whatever. And I'm like, more. And really, it grew from there. I had opportunities at a very young age to, I grew up on the East Coast, so I started doing summer stock in New York, started dancing in the Boston Ballet program when I was younger. I was that girl that went on point when she was 9, which they don't do anymore. And luckily my feet still somewhat speak to me. But that's really where it came from. And then, you know, when I got into high school, I was dancing full time. I was going to school. I also sing. And then I started acting because, you know, to be the triple threat was the thing to do. I got accepted into Up With People when I was in high school, which I don't even know if they're around anymore, but that was a big thing then. And I remember turning to my parents and saying, this is what I want to do. And, you know, my parents supported me, but thought that it was something I'd grow out of. And when I said that I really wanted to do it professionally, they were like, and so I did. And I went to the Boston Conservatory and I was the first person to graduate with a major in dance and musical theater. And then I actually started working while I was in school. I had a professor that said, you know, don't get caught in the bubble. Get yourself out there, start working. So I did. And I worked professionally till I was 27 years old. I told my kids, you know, I had more stamps in my passport than most people have in their entire life. I was very blessed. But what I really want to talk about is, you know, listening to you speak. When I was 19 years old, I got put on a medication because my body, just as a dancer, things weren't working the way they should. And, you know, I lived off of, this is so sad to say, but I tell people this all the time. I lived off of Marble Lights, Diet Coke, and oranges because that's what ballerinas do. Yep. The cigarettes curb the appetite. The Diet Coke is for energy. And, you know, you had to get your vitamin C in there somewhere.
So you had cigarettes, Diet Coke, vitamin C. Perfect.
Had it all. I was covering the food groups, exactly. But I wasn't getting my period. So they had put me on birth control. And similar to your story, I went from 118 and now I'm just shy of 5'7". So I went from 118 to 190 in 4 months.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So when you
when you said my body didn't know how to respond, it was. And so you can imagine, here I am trying to dance. And I was like, this is so sad to say, but this is what I said to myself. I was like Miss Piggy on point shoes. Because you got to imagine, everybody I danced with was barely 4'8", 4'11", 85 pounds. I was already being told, you know, my maiden name's Viscuso. And they used to say, you need to lose weight, Viscuso. Suck it in, Viscuso. Because I was already taller. And even though 118 is teeny on that frame, yeah, I was big for a dancer. And so then like, that's where my whole spiral went from body dysmorphia. I mean, I did what I would never tell somebody to do. And I did something called the Scarsdale diet, which is not even around anymore because it's that bad. I lost 35 pounds in 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And it didn't stay off. And so then I did this and I just put my body through hell. But I had to get down. I had to get down fast because that was my career. And that's really where everything just started spiraling. I mean, there were times where, you know, I grew up in front of the mirror, not to be vain. That's what ballerinas do. You are in front of a mirror to look at your lines, look at your positioning. And there were times where I would look and I would get so consumed with how big I was in my brain that I lost focus. I would have to like walk away. It was bad.
It
But
is.
yeah.
And it's crazy because I catch myself doing that. And I like, because I worry about, okay, I'm on camera and I, you know, and I really am really proud that I don't edit the crap out of my stuff. So if I take a photo, I'm like, no, don't edit that. Like, I don't go in and like edit my chin or edit, you know what I mean? I'm careful. There's lighting I'll edit because sometimes lighting is great, but I really don't want to be the person who's like, here's me. And then you meet me and you're like, whoa, that's not, you know, I want people to know that this is the real version. And so I'm really good about that. But there are times where I'm like, I'm consumed with the appearance. And I'm like, you got to stop. You got to check yourself. Because we in the last 2 years too, we got forced to be all on social media. So everything is this.
Yeah.
And so I had a body dysmorphia period of my life, you know, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I was in really great shape. I'm actually in better shape now, in my opinion, but I was in shape because I was extreme. But
yes.
my skin didn't look as good. My skin, like if I look at pictures where I thought I looked good, I'm like, oh, I actually didn't look good. I looked dehydrated and I did not look as healthy as I do now because I was also drinking. Like, you know, I was skinny, but I was also having a lifestyle on the back end where I'm like, well, I'll work really hard all week and then I'm going to pound it on the weekends because I want to drink. So everything was revolved around do everything triple time so you can have your drinks on the weekend. And that was just a cycle that my body was like, and you're done. So I could only do that so long. So it's really interesting when you go into the world of dieting, weight loss, weight management, how many people will message me? Because I'm not even a fitness coach, but I do give a lot of advice. And they'll be like, okay, I have a hard time with the alcohol. Do I have to quit alcohol? It's the number one question. Do I have to quit drinking? And I always say, no, but you're going to have to chase it. Meaning you're going to have to work extra hard and be very, very mindful. Is that worth it? Is your goal worth it? Because it's really not that big of a deal and you'll feel better and it'll come off faster. It's just every time it's the number one thing. Yeah. Do I have to quit drinking? And I'm like, well, you don't have to, but if you really want to hit your goal in the right amount of time and do it right, yeah, you kind of do. You have to absolutely put it aside for a couple weeks, even if it's 3, 4, maybe even 6 weeks.
I usually tell women, you know, same thing. It's exactly what you say. And I just followed up with this. Here's the reality. The alcohol is going straight to your midsection. So do you want abs or do you not want abs? It's that simple. If you want the abs, then you got to cut away the alcohol. If it doesn't matter to you, keep doing what you're doing. Now, I'm the same as you. You know, I'm never going to tell somebody no. I don't believe that that's my position. Right. But I'm going to give them the best knowledge that I have. And I always say that here's the knowledge, because you're never going to come back to me and say I didn't give it to you. I lay it all out, and then you get to decide what you want to take from it and what you don't. Because at the end of the day, it's your body, it's your journey, and it's your choice. So yeah, you know, you said something earlier. By the way, we had the exact same weekend. I can tell you about that same weekend. So funny. I don't know if you ever saw there was a Kim Kardashian, there was an episode that she did. And I was like, halla frickin' Luya. She has really bad psoriasis.
She does.
And she did an episode where she literally showed what her legs actually look like and how she has to cover them up every day. And I was like, thank you. Because if you didn't know any different, you're like, they look flawless. You know that they spend a heck of a lot of money and it's not obtainable by me by any means. You know, it's not relatable to me. But when she did that, I was like, thank you. Thank you for showing that you actually are real. Because that's the thing, you know, I have veins up my right leg from dancing and from childbirth. And, you know, I'm like you. It's like, I tell people too, I'm like, if I'm not out in the sun, self-tanner's going on because I need to cover those suckers up because they bother me. The skin, hey, 53 years old, it is what it is. You know, the skin happens. It happens with age. And, you know, and I know what you mean. It's like, teach next to somebody 20 years younger than me. And constantly I go through this game in my head and I'm like, you're 20 years older than her. Give yourself a break. So I get it. It's an ongoing struggle.
It is. Well, and it's funny. There's a lot of people who struggle with skin issues. Take away regular issues. Like everybody has cellulite, men too. Stretch marks, men too. Men with scars. People have scars. It doesn't matter what it's from. Regardless, you always have some sort of a scar somewhere. I mean, usually. And you know, but when it comes to the additional things, like stuff like when you talk about psoriasis, I've had psoriasis since I was 12 years old. Thank God it's not skin everywhere, but that didn't happen. That's on my head and it's controlled. What happened is I also developed an autoimmune that affected my legs. So I developed something called granuloma annularis. And it doesn't make you, it's not itchy. It's not nothing. It's just red raised marks that can come on during stress. So what happened? I had a little bit in one spot, tiny, nothing no one would notice. To the last 3 years, I have it all on my lower legs. And so on top of being stressed out, having all these other issues, I'm like, and thank you. Right. And it's one of the hardest things to get rid of. You don't ever get rid of it, but it's one of the most difficult. So I've been injected in my legs with needles over 1,000 times. I've had thousands of injections in my legs over the last 7 years. Because the only thing that works for me after I've done all the creams, I've done every UV light, all the things. I have not done a V-beam laser. That's the next adventure, but I'm going to do that later. I'm not that stressed about it anymore. Here's where I'm at with it. I'm like, nobody notices except for me. Right. Like nobody would notice it. Sometimes it gets dark and it's a little, it almost looks a little bruised, or like someone would be like, oh, what happened? It's very not noticeable. And I have finally got to the point now with that where I'm like, take a deep breath, because it's not the end of the world. But it's like all these things that we go through, and women especially, because we have these standards put on us. And, you know, it's like when people want to, you know, like if you're dating, like imagine that. Imagine if you had to start dating again. You don't, thank God. Like I'm in a interesting situation where I'm transitioning and I don't know how that's going to go. But it's like, oh my God, what do I do? I mean, I feel flawed in every way now because I feel like I have to get put under a microscope by new people. You know, it's like, I don't want to go through that. But in reality, it's kind of funny because most guys, if not all, they don't care.
No. You know,
and I laugh about it, but we do this to ourselves.
Yeah. You know, you're a little bit younger than I am, a lot, but there's a very interesting thing. I had 2 epiphanies in my life. The first was, you know, when you suffer from body dysmorphia and you're constantly just judging yourself and then you go get pregnant. That was, I think God had a really, wanted to give me a really big life lesson and hit me hard with it. When I got pregnant with Marcus, my first child, I went from 118 to 131 before my first 9-week checkup. I went up all the way to 165 pounds with him. And in the beginning, because I was putting weight on so fast, because I was so small, but I didn't see it that way. And it was like immediately I was like, okay, I got to watch what I eat. And then I felt him move for the first time. And it was like, it's just this whole different world opened up for me. And all of a sudden I was like, I'm responsible for growing a human being. I need to put my crap on the back burner. Once I pop the kid out, game on. But until then, I have to do what I have to do for this child. So that was my first epiphany that really like kind of was planting some seeds. But there is something about, and I've talked to so many women about this, there is something about hitting the age of 50 that I don't know why we do this, but we just do, that it's like you're at the top of the mountain and now you're going on the other side. You know, you've climbed. Now you're coming down the back end. And there is just this shift that happens, and it's so strong. And I got to tell you, I still go through my stuff, but it's way faster to get out of it because it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. And I look at life so much differently. I strive to have balance in my life now and not be so extreme, because I live such an extreme life and just really like beat myself up. Like I said, I'm not perfect. I had a wedding this weekend, and there were a lot of, my husband's in the industry, so there was a lot of people in the industry there, and I'm standing next to somebody that I've known for years, and she's literally this big, and like all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, her waist is so teeny. I'm so big next to her. I went through that whole, I went, oh my gosh, I'm going down the rabbit hole.
Right.
And I was like, stop now, you know? But it just happens. So, but it's an ongoing thing where we compare ourselves to others, and it's a waste of energy, but we do it.
I know. Well, it's interesting. Think about back. So when I was really struggling with this, I would say 5 years ago, 7 years ago, I would say it would ruin many events, weekends, didn't want to do anything. I got angry for a little while. Like I noticed that because I was working so hard. I don't know if you've trained for like bodybuilding or.
I have.
I'm sure you have. As I was going to say, I'm pretty sure
I did one because it was a bucket list.
Yeah. So when so I trained for photos, which was right the crest of a bodybuilding. So what I did is I got right to the very limit. I could have done one more week and I could have been in a competition. It was just right there.
Yeah.
So I got right to this edge. And I remember I was in the truck and I flipped out about something. I don't know where it came from. And I punched the window and I stopped and I'm like,
it's because you were hungry.
I'm like, I am depleted.
Yeah.
I am pushing my body so hard. I mean, if I showed you the pictures, I'm like, whoa, there was nothing on me. And I don't even know if that looked good. Like, to be honest, I'm like, this is okay. I mean, you can photograph pretty well, but it was right on the border. I'm like, was that worth that? I mean, I looked good, but I mean, it wasn't. But I remember my husband was like, whoa, you need to look at what's important. And I did. And something I do now, so when I have my spirals, just like, how you can pull yourself out, I pull myself out pretty quick. What I do is, number one, I say gratitudes right away. I'm like, I am not in gratitude right now. Because if I'm sitting here worried about cellulite, stupid skin stuff, and really, really vain stuff, I'm not thinking about all the blessings I have around me.
Yeah.
My home, my healthy children, healthy myself, I'm healthy, my sobriety, I go through all the things. I thank God. And then I also go, there is many people out there that has way worse situations right now. I could go on Facebook and in 5 minutes, I've got friends losing babies. I've got friends with sick family members.
Yeah.
I'm like, what am I doing? This is the dumbest thing to think about. And this is what I'm thinking about today on a Saturday when it's 90 degrees out. That is the dumbest thing to think about. And that's when I pull myself out. So let's talk about that. Let's talk to the ladies on here. It's mostly ladies. Men go through this too. I know
absolutely.
I know quite a few men that have some issues with this. And I think it's really important to highlight, this is not just a woman issue. And guys, I know that you deal with this too. Let's talk about when you're into a moment, when you're starting to like overdo it, when maybe you think you might have a problem, maybe you are suffering from body dysmorphia. How can we seek some help, or how can we first help ourselves and then maybe find an outlet that can get us into a healthier state? Because this is a serious issue and it's happening everywhere.
And you said it happens with men, just watching my boys. So my boys are 17 and 19. And especially my 19-year-old, he's into fitness big time and looking at bodybuilders and constantly comparing himself. And I remember when my kids were young, because what was so super important to me is I vowed that I would not let my children see any of my stuff. I did not want to put that on them. I did not want them to start having issues about themselves. And I was very conscious about that. But damn social media, man, I can't compete with that. And I even watch my boys. It's funny because my daughter, she's a confident little thing. She's like, she don't care. She's like, I got curves, I got booty, I got tatas. She's like loving herself. I'm like, you go for it, girl. My boys, they're constantly, well, this one's more ripped. This one's got this. And I was always like, look at this picture. This is not real. This is photoshopped, people. This is not real. This and this, he may look like that for a hot 5 minutes because he's dieted down like he was getting ready for a figure show to deplete his body of everything, constantly speaking that in. But to answer your question, one thing that I had to do, and I would say to anybody who is finding that they're driven in this direction, throw away your scale.
Yeah.
I hate scales. Scales are liars. They're liars, okay? You can actually gain up to 7 pounds in a single day from the time that you wake up and take your first pee to the time that you go to bed, depending upon what you ate. I love to eat sushi. I know never to get on the scale the day after I eat sushi. It's sodium. Yeah. No matter whether you do the rice or not, it's pumped into the fish. You're going to blow up like a puffer fish, and it's not real. It's not real weight. So get rid of your scale. Mm-hmm. I would definitely, for me personally, it got so bad. How I became a therapist was because of my own stuff. That was really how I segued from dance into therapy, is I went and sought help. I went and got myself a therapist to try to talk through, to give myself tools to understand where it was coming from, boundaries. I was in a very bad relationship before my husband for 8 years. And he would do stuff like he would go behind me and he would go off the side. He goes, now you see me? Then you get behind me and he goes, now you don't. Oh yeah. Like crazy, crazy stuff. But I was in such a poor self-esteem position that I just allowed it to happen. So it's like, look what's feeding you, start putting some boundaries. If you're in situations that are feeding it, get out of it. Mm-hmm. Don't surround yourself with things that are feeding into it. And I love what you said, self-affirmations were what saved me. I literally, I started reading, I started looking into different things, and I was at this training, and it was about self-love. And this woman had said, go get some 5x7 index cards and write positive affirmations on it. Get a little ring, like a key ring, put it on. I would flip through them morning and night. I'd wake up reading them. I'd go to bed reading them, just speaking positivity into myself. Didn't believe it for a really long time. And then, there comes a point where you're like, you know what? I am beautiful. I am individually made in his image. I would get dry erase markers and I'd write on my mirror, mm-hmm. You are beautiful. You are amazing. You are a great mother. You are a great wife, whatever it is, constantly surrounding. What are you putting into your brain? What are you looking at? What are you paying attention to? And that's what I would say. I mean, you have to change your surroundings. If what you're in is not feeding you in the right way, then take inventory.
Mm-hmm. I think it's really important on your social media too. My daughter is young and she loves to follow a lot of these influencers, like the big ones. And I'm always careful, like if you are having issues with body and image, these are the last people you should be following. Because they are very filtered. They are edited to the hilt. And that's all they do is focus on what they look like. And you can't compete with that. And I really try to tell people, like, that is the last place you should be sitting, is in that type of circle. And that does affect you. Every time you open up social media, if you're seeing people with unrealistic bodies and faces, you got to get rid of it, because you've got to be surrounded. And like you said, you got to feed yourself. You got to love you. And that starts inside. You've got to love the parts of you, because the body goes, you know what I mean? We get older, things change. It's going to happen. You can make it slow. You can slow the process a little. You can eat better. You can do really good things. Wearing sunscreen, for example, is a pretty smart thing. But drinking water, it's just basic stuff. But we all age. This is just a vessel. What's important is inside the vessel, what the vessel houses. So take care of the vessel, but also realize there's so much more to beauty than the outside. And it's a tough thing to break when you grow up, being a ballerina, being in the spotlight, being, on stage, photos, all the things. But you do have to step back sometimes, maybe just shut it off. Take a break, get out of the mirror, shut it off. I love that you said no scale, because I don't get on the scale. I don't get on the scale unless I'm at the doctor, and even when I'm there, I'm like,
Right.
I'm like, I don't
And
even
then still I'm like, do I really got to get on this?
I have to get on this. And there's times where I'm like, woo, that's a good weight. But again, my weight will fluctuate 7 pounds. Exactly like you said, it does. So I'll get on the scale and I'll be like, whoa, that's 7 pounds higher than, a month ago when I weighed myself the one time. I go by how my clothes fit.
Yep.
I know how my clothes fit. It is the best way to judge.
Yep.
And, the body confidence thing has improved. Like there's a lot of these movements, body confidence. And as we're going to wrap with just this one part, because I'm curious of your opinion on this, because I'll be honest with mine. I am 100% about body confidence. So we're going to swing the other way.
Okay.
Then I think we go into this interesting era that we're coming into where being unhealthy is being touted. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I'm not saying that people need to be thin, because I think there are gorgeous, and I'm a thicker woman. When I'm not like really, I tend to be bigger on the bottom. I'm a curvy woman, so I'm never going to be stick thin. It's never going to be like runway model type person. It's just not who I am.
Yep.
But even when I was larger, I didn't look bad. I looked, I looked like I was heavier, but I was proportionate. I still thought I'm still a beautiful woman. I don't love being 30 pounds heavy, but I mean, I still had the things that I liked about myself. But we go into this new era of, we're seeing some people who are heavily overweight. And I mean an unhealthy overweight. I'm not talking about just a little bit, or 30 pounds, or, maybe they're going through things. We're talking about unhealthy weight. There's no way it's healthy. And then they're like, it's your body shaming and you're this. No. Mm-mm. When you have high blood pressure and you're pre-diabetic, and a lot of these women too are diabetic or pre-diabetic, and they're like trying to say like, I feel good in my skin. I'm proud of you for feeling good, but you are at a level where you're not healthy. So I'm not saying that these people can't feel good about themselves. That's not the problem.
No,
when you're pushing unhealthy, that's a problem if you have a platform. I think there's just this weird balance that's going on. I don't know your opinion on it, but that's
it's funny because my girlfriend and she's also a trainer, and we got into a very long discussion about this because I guess Jillian Michaels had said something a while back, and she got blasted for it. And it was completely taken out of context because I actually 100%, I'm pretty sure we're on the same wavelength, just listening by what you were saying and what she was saying. There's a difference between body shaming and not being healthy and getting on a platform and flaunting that you're not healthy.
Correct.
I have a huge problem with that. It's like I'm trying to decide how to word this without it coming.
Just say it, because here's the thing. If people judge you, they can. But
I'm from the East Coast, girl. I don't give a crap what you think of me. I'm going to tell it to you how it is straight.
Say something I agree with. It was taken out of context, so I will say that. How it got portrayed made her look terrible.
Right.
And I don't care if people take this out of context, because I know what I'm saying right now. And if you get on a platform and you are touting pre-diabetic to diabetes, high blood pressure, and you're standing there saying, there's nothing wrong with saying, I still think I'm beautiful. Of course you're beautiful. There's
Absolutely.
nothing wrong. You can be beautiful. It's about trying to tell people that this is healthy. No, it's not.
It's not. There is nothing more attractive than a person who loves themselves and is confident in their skin. There's nothing more attractive than that. Hallelujah. I praise that to the hilt. But what I have a problem with is when you tote around and you're drinking Diet Cokes and you have diabetes and you're eating fast food and you're making it seem like that's okay. That's not okay. It's not. I have a client. We actually had a very interesting conversation. It's funny we're talking about this right now. She's a little more on the bigger side. It is her, sure. I said to her, sweetheart, I want you to know something. I said, how's your blood work? She goes, my blood work is perfect. I go, you work out every day, you eat clean. I go, I feel like you're striving to be something that the world portrays as healthy.
Right.
And you just happen to be, you know, a size 8 girl. Who gives a crap? You're doing everything right. You're eating right. You're taking care of yourself. Your body is like a machine. I go, but you're chasing something that's an image that is, you know, there's chasing 2 different directions, you know, and it's like, and she gets in this place because people equate this with this with this. And it's like, no, there's nothing wrong with being a larger sized woman if you're doing all the right things. Not everybody is going to be, you know, I'm at that age of, you know, Twiggy was the thing to be when I was growing up, right? You kidding me? But that's what it was. And I have a hard time, and it's not just in this genre, it's in a lot of different genres of people on a platform speaking things that are we're way off.
Well, and you don't have the education behind it either. It's really hard. But this goes, okay, so it swings both ways. Then we have the 90s where supermodels were the thing, and the supermodels were so skinny and sick that, you know, that was happening, and they're swinging out of it. But it's the same on the other side. You can't be standing there when, and I'm going to say this really, really rough, snorting Coke in the background, drinking your Diet Cokes, having cigarettes, and telling people this is how you should look too, because that doesn't work either. You can't be that person. So, you know, you've got these extremes on both ends. This isn't just about being bigger. It's also, I see a lot of very unhealthy, skinny people.
Absolutely. I mean, look at me, Diet Coke, Marlboro Lights, and oranges. No, seriously, I literally thank my body every day. I thank my body every day. I'm like, thank you. Thank you that you love me enough to still like keep me in shape, because I put you through hell. Like, I'm surprised that my body even loves me, because like I said, that was my staple from like, I don't know, many years. And then, you know, luckily I got some sense about me, but I'm very, you know, the people that are around me, and even on social media, I try to be as real as possible. Like if you saw my stories yesterday, you know, I went and had, you know, I'm very healthy. I'm not going to lie. I mean, for the most part, I am on point, but yesterday I went and had, what was it called? Daddy's chicken. And there was nothing healthy about it. And I posted, and people are like messaging me going, you eat that? I'm like, yes, I'm not unhealthy all the time, but if I want to have something, I'm going to go have it. I mean, life is about enjoying, not about extremes. It's about finding that balance.
Wow, Michele, it has been an incredible episode. I mean, for all the ladies, and I know myself, body confidence is such a huge issue, and loving yourself and being healthy at any age, any weight, any size. But really, this has been an eye-opening episode for me. I know that. And we all have stretch marks. We all have cellulite. We're all aging, beautiful women. And I think you really drove that home. So we're going to drop the links for Michele, and you can find her on Instagram. You can find her on Facebook, and we will make sure you have those links. But for us today, we're so grateful. This has been another amazing episode. I'm Shylo Ekstrom, and I'll catch you on the next episode.